Do you ever feel like you're not really ill? I was thinking about this after I made my video yesterday. Yesterday I talked about how I've been reading a book called Shoot the Damn Dog by Sally Brampton, her memoir of when she had severe depression. And in the passage I read, it spoke about it compared mental illness to physical illness, and it put it in that context. But then I started thinking about it the other way round, and how I certainly, as someone who doesn't have severe depression, sometimes doesn't feel like they're really ill. And I sometimes feel like, because I am able to function perfectly well in my everyday life most of the time, that I don't really deserve to use things like self-help websites, or take antidepressants, or talk about my life on YouTube, because there's so many other people who are worse off. I'm sorry, I'm moving this around a lot. Because when I've got something to do, when there's a purpose to the day, when I can wake up and think, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. This is how it's going to go. I'm going to feel like this. When I've got something that passes the hours, whether I particularly enjoy it or not, when I've got something to occupy my mind, I can almost completely forget that I'm in any sort of mental distress. It's never gone completely from my head, but I can sort of act normal. And it's so weird, because I know that some statistic I read, 1 in 4 people will get some sort of mental illness at some point. You know, a whole quarter of anybody you ever see is going to have it. Just because you're not lying in bed crying doesn't mean you're not ill, and I know that, but I still can't help but think, how am I really ill? So many other people are worse than me. And it's just, I know that it's like, I don't know, arthritis or something. It's good one day, it's bad the next day, and that is the nature of the illness. But sometimes I feel so almost happy that I feel like I should be able to just snap out of it. But then there's times when I'm alone, when I have time to think and to really... That's all it is. When I'm alone and I have time to think, that's when I realise how ill I am. Like, when I've got things to do, I can sort of put it back to the back of my mind, but when I'm on my own, I realise the sort of thoughts that I have. I realise how lonely I am, and how low I can feel. And I think it's just sometimes the fact that I just don't feel low all the time, that's what makes me feel like I'm not really ill sometimes. But then I look at it in another way and I think, well, I have physically scarred my body to find some sort of relief from what's going on in here. Surely that's got to indicate that there's something wrong, something more than just being able to snap out of it. And I know that self-harm indicates huge mental distress. And in a weird way, that's sort of a comfort to me, because those scars prove to me and to other people that I have got a problem. And, you know, if anybody ever says to me again, depression isn't a real illness, I can, well, I don't think I actually would. But the scars would be able to prove to them, you know, I just want people to think, God, she must be in so much distress to actually harm her own body. How upset must she be? Because sometimes I don't think people realise. Because I always put on such a strong exterior for some reason. I'm such a perfectionist that I hate showing people that I'm upset. So everybody always thinks there's such a big pressure on me to always be fine. But if people know that I have physically hurt myself, made myself bleed, bruised myself, then maybe they'd be able to understand a little bit more about what actually goes on in my head.